Oh hey, welcome to another edition of Hand-Laid Tracks and 3D Printed Trains with Socrates. Today we're looking at the bulk carrier. It's a bulk carrier flat car, has 2 to 4 coil cars fitting on it, magnetic. You can run it with a container cargo, 40 foot or 45 foot cargoes, also 20 foots, 220s. It has magnets inside, holds the loads on. The loads themselves are just in there loosely. There's magnets inside the car, magnets inside the loads, and the base of these loads holds them on securely to the car. Printed as a 3D printer, works on any 3D printer because it's basically by layer, pausing and changing the filament on different layers. Held together with, or runs on microtrains couplers, press fit inside of the base. I use the medium shanks. Works with containers as well. This is the 40-foot version, so it can hold 220s or 140. And the larger 45-foot version holds a 45 or 2 of the 40s that are specially made for this. Everything's held on with a magnet. I mean, they will fall apart, but trains don't tend to run upside down, so, you know, it's more than secure enough. You can see they've been running there for a while. They're more than secure enough. Holds the load in place. That way you can run it as an empty or with the load, or you can run it with just the coils or the empty coils as well. So you can run it as an empty with your empty coil cars, or stick in some coil loads. Same car, different ways. Like I said, microtrains couplers on the bottom, couple color changes, couple magnets inside, pause command for the magnets. Okay, so this is basically, I slice it in Simplicity 3D. It has ability to put scripts into it. I find it's a really good slicer. I know it's paid, but it's the one I've been using. Under the layer height, I use adaptive layers. This is for train tracks, for train cars. I try to make it the best I can, so I use an adaptive layer between 0.08 and 0.16. Under the post-processing, you can add scripts, and I have a change filament script, basically a pause, and another pause for the magnets, another pause. So basically the change filaments is a pause with the change filament command thrown in, and the magnets is just simply a pause. And the way you figure out what height to put it in, you sort of have to slice it first at your settings and then go back and find the layers. So like I said, I'm slicing this at 0.08 to 0.16, and in this case the magnets start covering in the magnet spot at layer 13. And so you have to find out what height is where you want the colors to change and what height you need to put the magnets in. And the magnets are at that same point where the layer starts. Basically, that's the next layer is the number you want. So it starts to cover it at 13, so you want to pause the magnets at layer height 13. The other place I'm pausing again is for the bottom. I'm doing 2 color changes and a magnet change. The first color change is from wood to the paint color of the body, and the second color change is from the paint color of the body to the under of the body. In this case, I'm doing it in silver. So I've already have 5. Layer 6 is where the first color change goes from brown to yellow, and I have at layer 5, I have the sound makes the chime, so I'm pre-warned 1 layer early, and then at layer 13 it pauses for the magnets, and again I have a pause at 12, or a chime at 12, so I know it's coming up, just to remind me. So you have to change it in both the 2 places, in the first and the second instance there, where it has 23 in 2 places with a comma after it, and the 22 in 2 places with the comma after it. So it makes a chime at 22, and it does the actual change filament at 23. The magnets are at 13, and another color, the change filament's at 6. And so you can check again in your slicer, make sure everything's at the right height, go ahead and export it to your, in my case, SD card, and go ahead and send that to the printer, and you just have to listen to the beeps going off. You can check your heights again and again to make sure everything's exactly where you want it. Again, 13 is where the magnets are first covered, and that's where you want the layer change for the magnets. And then I saved it onto a SD card, and away we went to the printer. Now on the printer, the changes of filament are sort of a physical process, obviously. It's going to beep early, and then once it beeps later on, you can run over to it and you pull out the old filament and then place in a new one, hit the button on the power up case. In my case, this is a CR10 version 3 from Creality. Every printer's got its own thing, but essentially the command should work because it's fairly universal. And in this case, I'm printing from a brown to a yellow, so I'll do a double purge. Once the purges come all the way out, I hit the button a second time, and that goes ahead and purges that a little bit more, because it tends to be dark color. It takes a while to come out of the machine. Sometimes I'll actually pull it a little left and a little right to help it clean out from the nozzle. Wait for the last second to pull it away. I added a retract command in there, so it got rid of most of the oozing problems. And you can see that the beginning holes are for the magnets, and a couple more layers will come back and add the magnets to it. And again, it's the same basic idea. You have to figure out what height you're going to be at, and then pause it at that height. In this case, I'm just doing magnets. And one of the things with the magnets, if you're doing a car body, you want to put the magnets oriented on a previously printed car body as well, because otherwise the magnets could go in backwards, and it's sort of a real pain when you try to put the load on it and it bounces away. So always use the like for likes. If you're doing a car body, use the car body to hold your magnets on it, and if you're doing a load, use a load to hold the magnets on it, because otherwise at some point you'll definitely get one in backwards. I mean, it's no big deal. The print's kind of garbage, and I use a pair of snippers to cut the plastic apart and get the magnets back out, throw the print away, and start again. And that's the beauty of a 3D printer, is that you can make mistakes a few times if you need to. And this will come back a couple layers later. Again, it beeps early. I find it's helpful to don't have to pay attention to the printer, but once it beeps that first time, it takes a little while for the next beep to happen because it's a full layer away. But it gives me a chance to get ready for my process of having to get over there and maintain my printer duties. And as you can see, it covers over that first layer, goes over the magnets quite nicely. There's a tiny little gap in there. Better the tiny gap than too tight, I suppose. I don't know. It works for me. It's not something you bounce around. I've never heard them clicking on the tracks or anything like that. The magnets aren't strong enough to like really hold on to, because if I had bigger magnets at one point, but they interfered with each other, and the loads would push each other around. And also, as you're going down with a load, you can make the thing snap off the tracks if it's too strong a magnet. These seem to be good. They're 6mm round by 1mm thick magnets, by the way. I get them from AliExpress. They worked really well for me. Did another color change because I like to have the bottoms in a different color. Some people say I have too many colors in my cars, but the truth is it's my railroad. You get to do what you like. I use a PEI magnetic bed, kind of bend it and things pop right off, and I find that to be a really effective use for the bed. A lot of people complain about sticking issues. I find it's the greatest bed for that because it sticks when it's hot and it doesn't when it's cold, and you can bend it and things pop right off. Again, another color change on the sides are the same as the base, the brown for the wood, and then whatever color you're doing it. And in this case, I'm doing it in yellow. Again, it's a yellow from brown, so I do a double purge to make sure that it's at least clean. I have a little mirror set down underneath the printer so I can see the nozzle a little easier, so you can kind of give an eye on it and see what's going on. And then when it goes away once through, you have to rotate on a creality, extrude some more, extrude a bit more filament. It just keeps from bleeding because there's no purge whatsoever beyond this. Hit the continue, last second, pull it away. It's off to print the ends. And the ends are sort of a friction fit. They kind of squeeze into the end of the base. It's a very fine line between too tight and too loose, but if it's easy to get in, well, they're going to fall out as well. But they slip into the ends. They don't have to come out a second time. And again, when you're doing loads, take your magnets, drop them onto an old load so they sort of self-orientate themselves. And in this case, again, it's a load. The base of the bulk carrier for the coils has these little carrying vessels. It's what I see in all the photographs when you search it online for bulk carrier cars and coil cars. And so I buried the magnet inside the base for the bulk carrying coil car, and that way you can run it with the coil and the base, or with just the empty flat car. And again, you just sort of reorientate the magnets with a load. With the pause command, it comes out of the way, moves the printer out of the way so you can get to the magnets. Slip everything in, push play again, or push continue print. printer zips back into action, and it quickly covers over the magnets themselves. A little while later, again, the PEI bed is great, and you can see they're certainly magnetic, but magnetic enough to hold them on, but not magnetic enough to interfere with the trains. In the end, it's one of my favorite cars ever made. 3 version, 2 version, 45 foot, 40 foot, all together the same. Get them on cults. Love printing these things for the trains. And they work. See? Thanks for watching. See you again next time soon, here on the channel. Handley Tracks doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song. Handley Tracks doesn't have a theme song. Still doesn't have one yet. Handley Tracks doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song, doesn't have a theme song. Handley Tracks doesn't have a theme song. Still doesn't have one yet.